As simple as this appears, so many people will solve it wrongly. Watch this video to the end and see what I mean by so many people will solve it wrongly. We have this equation, and correctly so, what you need to do first is to square both sides so that we can take away the square root from the numerator. If we do just that, we are going to have on the left hand side x over x squared, because when you square the numerator, the square will cancel out the square root and you'll be left with x. When you square the denominator, it becomes x squared, and that will be equal to 4 squared by the time you square the right hand side of the equation. 4 squared is 16, right? So we can cross multiply here by multiplying 16 with x squared and equating it to x times 1. So 4 squared is 16. By cross multiplication, 16 times x squared gives us 16 squared, and that is equal to x. This is where so many persons will get it wrong. They will go ahead to divide x here 1, x into x squared, x, and then it becomes a linear equation. But if you look at this carefully, the fact that we have an x squared here means this equation is already quadratic and it must have two solutions. If you go ahead and do your division, you have a linear equation at the end of the day, which is not the right thing to do, because as a quadratic equation, with the virtue of the power of x being 2, you should have two solutions. So the right thing to do is to cross multiply and have an equation that is quadratic, such as this, and solve further. To solve this equation, we do not divide both sides by x, because if we do that, it will be wrong. We don't know the value of x yet, so we can't divide by the variable. So we need to bring this x into the left hand side to form a quadratic equation. And if we do that, we now have 16x squared minus x equals 0. This is now the quadratic equation. To solve further, we can factorize, because x is common to both sides of this expression on the left hand side. If we factorize, x into 16x squared, you'll be left with 16x. X into x, will be left with 1. The negative is still there, and that is equal to 0. What this expression means is that either 16x minus 1 is equal to 0 or x is equal to 0. That is when this equation will be satisfied. So 16x minus 1 equal to 0 or x equal to 0. But this is where it gets interesting. If you put the value of x equal to 0 back in this original equation, it becomes undefined. Reason being that the denominator of a fraction cannot be 0, because if 0 is here, this equation becomes undefined. Because x equal to 0 does not satisfy the original equation, it means this solution is invalid. So we can conclude and say x equal to 0 is an invalid solution. Now that this is an invalid solution, we are left with 16x minus 1 equals 0. To obtain x, we take this negative 1 to the right hand side so that we have 16x equals 1. And the value of x is obtained by dividing both sides by 16, giving us x to be equal to 1 over 16. So this is the answer to the question. Now, why do we have to go through this stress of getting two equations and considering one to be invalid before getting the value of x? It is simple. A quadratic equation has two solutions, and in mathematics you have to obtain all the solutions unless stated otherwise. In this case, this x equal to 0 is a solution, but it is an invalid solution. So you must show that in your working, that first of all, we have two solutions, but unfortunately one is invalid, and that is why the value of x is 1 over 16. That is the lesson to take from this tutorial. And if you understood what I've said and you enjoyed the lesson, thank you very much for watching this, and hope to see you in our next video. But there is a simple exercise for you to do. Find x in this equation and put your answer in the comment section. Thank you for watching this video, and hope to see you in our next video.